Welcome to Hispanic New York and the Latinoization of the United States. We will begin our program in just a moment. Thanks to all of you for being here. And to get us started, let's bring up to the stage Andrew Del Banco, Director of American Studies, and Julian Clarence Levy Professor in the Humanities here at Columbia. Professor Del Banco.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be very brief. I have a few thank yous. I'm going to keep it short because I don't want to steal time from the panel this evening, but please don't confuse my brevity with perfunctoriness. I want to say thank you, first of all, of course, to Claudio Remeseira for editing this wonderful book, to all the contributors to it, present and absent, to Jennifer Crew, I see somewhere in the middle there, of Columbia University Press, to our co-sponsors, my colleague Francis Negrón-Muntaner, also a panelist this evening, a director of our Neighbor Center for the Study of Ethnicity and Race, and Louise Mirror, director of the New York Historical Society, our partner organization. I want to thank Mr. Suarez, too, for coming. We were glad to make it possible for you to have a visit with your daughter. And we want to welcome a year belatedly, Ava, to Columbia. I'm glad it sounds like you're having a good time. And I must also, as I always do, because I must thank our wonderful assistant director, Angela Darling, without whom absolutely nothing happening tonight would have been possible. Thank you, Angela. Now, it's an auspicious day. It's the first day of National Hispanic Heritage Month, as I hardly need to remind you, and I want to say just one other thing very briefly. And that is that everyone who knows anything about the past of this great university knows that there have been times in its history when Columbia seems to think of itself as a sort of fortress of culture looking down on the city in more ways than just topographically. I think, and I'm happy to say, there are many signs today that Columbia is coming to understand itself as part and parcel of this great ever-changing city, and that indeed it's from the city that it draws its strength and to which it owes virtually everything that makes it a great university. I believe that tonight's event marks a significant step in Columbia's self-understanding in this respect, and we're very glad to be part of it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'm Claudio Remeseira. Thank you, Andy, for your words. Just about a year ago, when we started planning for this event, the tone of the national conversation about Latinos was quite different from what it is today. The nomination of Sonia Sotomayor to the Supreme Court had stirred a wave of pride among men and women of Hispanic descent across the country. Judge Sotomayor's confirmation echoed the election of Barack Obama as president. The fact that the daughter and a son of the nation's two largest minorities had reached the top of the executive and judicial branches of government did not mean that the long-standing social ills afflicting Latinos and African Americans had been solved overnight. But it was a clear indication that the equality and the rights proclaimed by the Declaration of Independence had come a step closer to realization. On the other hand, the rise of discrimination and hate crimes against Latinos in many parts of the country, including New York, were warning signs of a more troubling reality. Yet the promise of comprehensive immigration reform offered hope for a legal resolution of those conflicts in the short term. Above all, there was the great expectation for the 2010 census, the population count that would reconfirm the consolidation of Latinos in Census Bureau parlor as the nation's largest ethnic and race minority, or race minority. A few months later, though, the climate was dramatically different. Arizona's immigration law triggered a national debate that had been long brewing and that was now suddenly brought to the forefront of the public. That debate, ostensibly over the legal status of immigrants, entails in fact deeper questions about the role that people of Hispanic descent have had and should have in the civic life of the United States. The ugliest face of this debate is the 21st century revival of 19th century know-nothing nativism. According to this view, the growing Latino population, especially the millions of undocumented immigrants who arrive from south of the border, constitute an invading army intent on destroying the ethnic, cultural, and political foundation of the United States. The most obvious manifestation of that invasion, the argument goes, is the spread of Spanish, a language that in some areas has already superseded English. For these new nativists, the country must be taken back from those other people, people who, they assume, do not belong here. In many cases, this anti-immigrant sentiment is fueled by misinformation and prejudices encouraged by the demagogical right-wing media that don't hesitate to build up their market share by agitating public fear of the so-called Latino menace. In many cases, too, those fear are a knee-jerk reaction to demographic changes that are happening faster and more extensively than many people are prepared to cope with. 50 years ago, in fact, only 9% of the country's foreign-born population came from Latin America. Last year, the U.S. Hispanic population was estimated at 48.4 million, or 16% of the nation's total population. 40 years from now, Hispanics are expected to number an astounding 132.8 million people, or 30% of the whole population of the United States. In many ways, New York City is the antithesis of the rest of the country. At the same time, it's the summation of the country's history. What does Hispanic New York tell us then about the Latinoization of the United States? Thanks to the immigration wave from Latin America, at some point during the 1990s, New York became a city with the largest and most diverse Hispanic population in the whole country. Today, about 1/3 of the city's residents define themselves as Hispanic. Just in this statistical sense, New York is the anticipation of the country's future. Its demographic metamorphosis also turned New York into a microcosm of the Americas because of the sheer number of national origin groups gathered. The city is arguably the most comprehensive Latin American city in the entire hemisphere. At the same time, this transformation enhanced the city's historical role as a cultural crossroads between the English and the Spanish-speaking worlds, a fact that already has and will likely have even more political and economic effects on the inter-American relations. Looking closely into these intersecting realities can help us deepen our understanding of what the United States is and of what it is rapidly becoming, and of the role that the Latino population has played in this process. For too long, and but for a few notable exceptions, major U.S. cultural institutions have failed to acknowledge the full extent and relevance of the contributions made by that population to the formation of the mainstream American culture. The happy coincidence in time of this book launch and the opening of the exhibition Nueva York, 1613-1945, organized by the New York Historical Society in collaboration with the Museo del Barrio, is an auspicious sign that this marginalization might be coming to an end. I will leave to Ray in a minute the presentation of each of the panelists who will discuss different aspects of this multifaceted heritage. But I would like to thank the other authors whose writings are collected in this volume, many of whom are also present here tonight. Jack Agüeros, Esther Allen, Theodore Bursley Jr., Dionisio Cañas, Ruby Danta, Marguerite Fernandez Olmos, Frank M. Figueroa, Carmen Dolores Hernández, Ed Morales, Antonio Muñoz Molina, Elizabeth Paravicini Gebert, Luis Pérez Oramas, Clara E. Rodriguez, Roberto Suro, and Ana Celia Centella. My special thanks to Gregory Horvath